Hi, I'm Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com, and this week I had so much fun making this little guy. He's officially a Swedish tomt or tomten. There's a lot of them out on the internet. I looked them up. You can get them all different kinds of shapes and sizes and colors, but most people seem to be making them in Santa Claus colors. They're not really Santa Claus creatures, though. They're traditionally a house elf or a farm elf, someone who kind of helps protect the homestead. But he looks like Christmas to me, and I was in the mood. If you know anybody who's going to be selling at a craft fair for this holiday, you might want to share this video with them. I think there's a possibility that these things could be a real hit. And the fun part of this guy was obviously the whiskers. I came up with a new way to make them. They're still slightly flexible, so you can move them around, and you can put them any place you want to. And that was really fun. I don't know exactly how we can use that particular method to make hair on any other kind of sculpture, but on this it looked really cute. So let me show you how I made this. This guy started out as a foil cone with a tall curvy point. I held the pieces together with hot glue, and I added a ball of foil for the nose. The legs are cut from a 3/8 inch dowel, and I cut one end of each leg at an angle so I could use it to press a hole into the foil, and then I used some hot glue to fix the legs permanently into the holes. Then I added the feet. I mixed up half a batch of the paper mache clay. You can find the recipe on my website at ultimatepapermache.com. There's a link to it at the top of every page. There's a little bit less paper in my mixture this time. I just wanted it to be really smooth, and I just spread it on a very thin layer, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, really, really thin. I just used a knife to put it on, kind of like frosting. You can smooth it off with the flat side of a damp knife. I had to set him down in front of a fan at least 3 times so that I could let him dry enough so that I could have a dry spot on him so I could hold him. And by the way, the fan really helped speed up this process. It would have taken a lot longer without it. Then I got to make those whiskers. In order to do that, I cut some, it was about 4-inch wide strips of aluminum foil and some wider strips of paper towels. If you use 2-ply paper towels, you have to pull the plies apart before you go on with the rest of the project. I cut both the foil and the paper into strips about 3/4 of an inch wide, maybe 1/2 inch. I didn't measure them. I don't think it really matters that much. And then I squished all the strips of foil to make them kind of like skinny sticks. The next step was to mix up a little bit of water into some Elmer's glue all. That's PVA glue if you don't happen to live in the United States. And I dipped a strip of the paper towel into the glue mixture. Then I wound it around one of the sticks of foil, and I twisted them together. The foil grabs onto the paper when you're twisting it, which keeps the paper from unwinding before the glue's dry. It worked really well. You can do it as tightly as you want to, but make sure that you're reasonably gentle so that you don't pull the paper off or break the foil on the inside. I gave each of my whiskers at least a little bit of a curl, some more, some less. And then while the whiskers were drying, I painted the Tom's pants red and his boots black with acrylic paint. I wanted to make sure to do that first because it's going to be impossible to get up there and actually paint his pants after the whiskers are on there. Then I wanted it to have kind of an antique-y look. I do this a lot. I put a little bit of burnt umber acrylic paint into some golden acrylic glazing liquid and mix that up together, and then I brush it on and wipe it off. It just leaves just a little bit of color in the dips and the spaces and makes it look old. When all the whiskers were dry, I stuck them on with hot glue. And then after all the whiskers were on and I decided that I liked where they were, I added a fur rim around the bottom of the hat with aluminum foil. And then I covered that aluminum foil with a little bit more of the paper mache clay. I also gave the nose another layer of clay because I wanted the edges of the nose to cover over the tops of those whiskers because the glued bits don't really look all that great. Then, of course, he went back in front of the fan. It had to dry all the way through And that nose, because I put on kind of a lot on the nose, I made him a lot bigger than he had started out. So I had to leave him overnight again. I wanted to be totally dry before I add any more paint. Once that was done, I got to paint his nose and his whiskers and his hat. I played with several different colors on the rim of the hat. Tried white, I didn't like it. Went with light gray and then a darker gray, and I ended up putting kind of splotchy bits of white over the dark, and it turned out rather nice. Has a nice soft finish to it. I like the way that turned out. Once the paint was dry, I gave it a spray of clear varnish. I didn't happen to have any Krylon clear. That's what I would normally use, but I didn't have any, so I just used what I had, and it worked fine. I wanted to use the varnish now in order to seal those whiskers, because I wasn't sure that the paint that I put on there covered the paper towel enough, and I'm going to be using some more of the antiquing mixture, and it will soak into the paper if it hasn't been sealed. So I just wanted to give it a spray first. That had to dry, but it didn't take very long. I think it was only about 30 minutes before it was ready for the antiquing part of it. And that, of course, was done in the same way as before. It got a little bit dark on the whiskers. I kind of liked it, kind of didn't like it, but I wanted to brighten up a little bit. So after the antiquing mixture was dry, I used a little bit of white paint, dry brushed, over the whiskers just to brighten it up a little bit in a few spots. So now he's all done, but I want to give it at least another day for that paint to cure until I spray it again with the clear varnish. If you happen to make one of these guys, I would love to see it. Come show it off at ultimatepapermache.com. The best place to put your photograph would be the Daily Sculptors page. A lot of people go out and see that page every single day, and we would all love to see how your little tomte comes out. I'll see you there, ultimatepapermache.com.